Hey guys, welcome back to Disney Coffee and Book Talk. We are back with another Harry Potter annotation. Again, my whole point of this series is to show that you can't separate the art from the artist, right? When the person is a bigot, it's going to bleed into their work. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, this will be chapter 12. This is the Patronus chapter. I did previously post chapter 13. Now, hear me out. I had filmed a bunch of videos, including chapter 12, and it disappeared on me. So I have to refilm quite a few videos, this being one of them. So I apologize that chapter 13 got uploaded ahead of time. But we are going to be talking about chapter 12. So first of all, we start off with the broom had been taken by McGonagall because Hermione had told her that Harry got a broom, a firebolt for Christmas, and they don't know who gave it to him. There was no card. And so the theory that was going on, especially throughout this chapter, was that it's possible Sirius Black gave it to him. And this, again, this comes up several times. That being said, the question was also posed during this chapter was there even a possibility for Sirius Black to even been able to walk into a broom store, order the broom and then send it off to Harry, especially being he is on the run from everyone and his face is out there and everyone is scared of him. He is a fugitive. Would there even be a possibility for him to do this? And I think the answer for most people would be like, no. Like, unless he went in and stole it or really threatened the person. But even then, I could see them, like, telling authorities. Not saying it's the right thing, right? Because as we know that Sirius Black did not end up being a bad guy. But, again, people are basing this off of the information they have. He's a bad guy in everyone's minds, including Harry's, and including Lupin even, and guess what? They're going to be afraid of him. So I don't think that's possible. We also know it's not from McGonagall because McGonagall would have been like, yeah, I gave it to you. So the mysterious firebolt was given to him. We don't know who it's from. We also know that Ron is still furious with Hermione and continues to be throughout the entire chapter. We do see this dynamic of the three of them having issues. I will say, as someone who's had three person friendship groups, it usually does not end well, and there's always one person that is kind of like left out, or like there's teamed up even when you don't think they're teaming up, as in this case at one point, or I think it was in chapter 11, Hermione felt that, no, sorry, I think it was the end of this chapter. Hermione felt that Harry was taking Ron's side, even though he was not like directly taking, like it wasn't because it was Ron, it was like he was using his critical thinking skills to come to that determination and his opinion, and she took it completely the wrong way. Okay. With that being said, we'll get to that in a moment about who that was about. But throughout this, we learned that Harry and Ron end up telling Captain Wood about the firebolt, that he got it, but it's being investigated by McGonagall and Professor Flint. He does eventually get it back in this chapter near the end, and nothing happens, so that is good, okay? Sorry, I'm kind of like going back and forth with all this information. We also know that Professor Lupin is going to be training Harry, and we do see at least one of those moments where they use a boggart, which they had used in class previously, and Lupin teaches Harry the Expecto Patronum, spell to use against Dementors and to push them back. Now, Lupin also stated that it's like one of the most complex spells, right? And that very few have a full figure to charge back the Dementor, but even the fact that Harry was able to even get wisps of this was showing progress and power. That being said, where am I? During this, Harry keeps hearing more and more from both his parents, not just his mother, but he also finally hears his father's voice, so that's really hard and distracting. He has to learn how to have happier thoughts and not get distracted. Harry also learns that Lupin, James Potter, and Sirius Black were all part of a friend group. This also included Wormtail. God, what was his name? Wormtail was his nickname, who ends up being Scabbers, as we know. And that is going to be important, right? And this is also where Hermione figures out that Lupin is a werewolf, based off a few different factors. Number one being the timing of his getting sick and his appearance. And number two, the information that she knows about with the Shrieking Shack and the Whomping Willow. On top of that, Hermione, although it's not like super major important, although it will come back later into the book, as we know that she has the Time Turner, she is taking all these classes, and at this point she is struggling with all of the piles of work that she has. Meanwhile, Harry, although struggling, only has the basic amount that everyone has, also has sports, right, which is Quidditch, and then on top of that has the tutoring with Lupin, and it's like he feels tired, but he's like, I'm not even nearly as tired as Hermione at this point. Harry also learns what a Dementor's kiss is. A Dementor's kiss being that these creatures, or lack of Grim Reaper kind of creatures, creates a living death for the person. And this is important because, one, we do see this again later in this book among others, but we also know that people in Azkaban go completely insane. And like this fear and this the way that they are treated in Azkaban, like as bad as someone is, right, even in our, right, we can put it into perspective with the American prison system, only because I'm in America, okay? But you could do this with other parts of the world. Where as bad as the prison system is and how awful it is, even though you're supposed to be taking accountability and it's your punishment, kind of like when you're a kid, if you did something wrong, your parent would possibly, and obviously every parent has their own ways, sit you in the chair and that's your timeout, right? It's their version of a timeout would be in these prisons. But they don't set you up for rehabilitation, which is kind of the whole supposed to be idea of prisons. But unfortunately, prison systems, including Azkaban, right, this fictional one, is meant to break you down. It's meant to destroy you. So I want to keep that clear. I said that. Oh, the last two parts of this chapter was, number one, we learned that Neville loses the list of passwords he has again. This is going to be important to chapter 13, which I already posted, but let's be clear, Neville being Neville, but also anyone can get that list, whether it is a supposed, right, and I'm putting that in quotes, supposed bad person like Sirius Black, or even just someone not in their house, like a Slytherin, aka Draco Malfoy, for example, to be able to get into their common room and tower and stuff. The last part, right, where it ends, is that Ron comes down from the bedrooms with bloody sheets, and he's yelling at Hermione and screaming about Scabbers. Now, his assumption, and again, this comes back to the dynamic and Harry also making the assumption, was that because they know how Crookshanks is, Hermione's cat, and how Crookshanks kept going after Scabbers, that they assumed that Crookshanks got into the boys' dormitory and went after Scabbers. And so all we see is this blood on the sheets, and that is all that is left of him. Scabbers disappears. And again, this is going to be important to the story. Number one, the assumption that it was Scabbers. Again, at this point, we don't know who could have possibly picked up the passwords. Now, having that I already posted chapter 13, I'm going to just let you know that, yes, unfortunately, Sirius Black, and I say unfortunately to, you know, he's deemed dangerous, gets the password and enters, and it could have been actually Sirius Black, especially knowing that Sirius Black was after Wormtail and not actually Harry. And Wormtail is the rat Scabbers in this case. So even though people are assuming that Sirius Black is after Harry, it happens to be the rat of his best friend. Kind of confusing, but also kind of not, because we know that it's not Harry. It just, the creature that they think is just a rat. A rat that happens to have lived long past its prime and should have. But again, this also brings me to the point that I had put out in a couple different videos, is even if it was Crookshanks, hear me out, even if it was possibly Crookshanks that did this, is it possible that Crookshanks is a transfigured witch or wizard who happens to know about Wormtail being the rat? Is that a possibility? Now, we don't actually ever know that throughout this series. You know, as someone who's read this multiple times, unfortunately have watched the movies, etc., right? Like, big in the fandom prior to knowing about JK being a horrible person. Could that have been a possibility? Also, you know, recognizing this, why was his name Sirius and then also Black? Like, okay, legitimately, there are people with the last name Black, understandably. I do have people with the last name Black, Green, Brown, all in my family, right? In my family tree, specifically on my mom's side. So yes, having different colors in your family tree is understandable, but considering that we don't ever hear of someone else having a different color or a different last name based off a color, at least from my memory, there could have been a Brown, but especially knowing that J.K. Rowling is not only transphobic but also racist. Anyway, that is all I have for you for chapter 12. I will see you in the next video for chapter 14. We got to skip ahead, sorry.